Hi, everyone, and welcome to Code Bytes. In today's session, we'll visit the fictional monster town where a virus outbreak is about to happen. We'll be programming and running simulations to understand how the virus spreads and what can be done to slow it down and help all the monsters get healthy again. Hi, my name is Leonardo Ortiz, and I'm Vice President of International Partnerships at Code.org. And this is my daughter, Natalia, who's going to be playing as my sidekick and co-programmer today.
Hello, I am 14 years old. I am in ninth grade, and during the pandemic, I've been learning coding using the CS Fundamentals Express.
That's cool. Did you like it?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Perfect. So today is very special because, as you may know, this episode is one of the many activities that we're doing to celebrate Computer Science Education Week, which is happening this week. And there's a lot of students and teachers all over the world doing an hour of code, trying an hour of code, some of them for the very first time in their life. So I know that many of you are joining us for different cities. I would like to see where you're from. We have a map in which we'll see where you're joining us from. So, wow, I expected a lot of different cities in the US, which we do have. We have some people in Alaska. We have some people from Mexico. I see someone in Venezuela, but I'm surprised to see that there are also some of you joining us from Europe, from Africa, even all the way from India. That is amazing. So that's very impressive. And well, we're both in Seattle. Natalia and I are here in Seattle. Today, actually, I wanted to be here at the headquarters of Code.org in downtown Seattle, just to be with you for this episode. There's a little bit over 1 billion times that students have done hours of code since we started the Hour of Code 7 years ago. But before we get into today's activity, I actually want to acknowledge and recognize a female pioneer in the computer science space. Today is her birthday. And by the way, it is one of the reasons why we are celebrating Computer Science Education Week around this date. So we're going to put a poll to see if you know who I'm talking about. So we have several options here: Ada Lovelace, Neva Roy-Mountain, Grace Hopper, Mary Ellen Wilkes. So we see that there's a lot of people voting for one candidate in particular, and then, okay, let's stop it there. I think around half of the audience actually knew the answer. Today is the birthday of Grace Hopper. For those of you that don't know her, I'm actually going to read something here. Admiral Grace Hopper's is her birthday today. If you don't know her, she was born in 1906 and was a highly respected admiral in the US Navy. And she helped develop a compiler that was a precursor to the widely used programming language called COBOL. We always make sure to plan Computer Science Education Week, as I mentioned, around her birthday. So let's move on, Natalia. Today, we're going to learn how to code using a tool called Sprite Lab. We're actually going to try and do a simulation, the simulation of an outbreak. Why? Because we're in the middle of a pandemic. So I think it's very appropriate for us to try and better understand how a pandemic behaves. And coding allows us to explore a little bit more about how that happens. And mainly because when you simulate something, a simulation allows you to better understand something that happens in the world, like in this case, a pandemic. So you can follow us by in your computer. If you just go and write code.org/outbreak, then you can also do the simulation at the same time as we are going to be doing it. So Natalia, do you want to share the screen with you?
Yeah.
So Natalia is going to be driving. She's going to be showing us her screen. Perfect. So if you're doing this in your computers and you typed code.org/outbreak, this is what you will see. And Natalia, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on here with Monster Town? I see a lot of monsters there.
Yeah, Monster Town's usually a happy and healthy place, and they like to wander around to visit their friends. But one day, one of the monsters has caught a virus, which is a tiny germ that can make monsters sick. But the other monsters are not too worried about it. They keep visiting their friends, but soon more monsters keep catching the virus. And so the remaining healthy monsters want to research ways to prevent other monsters from getting sick. And so they found that if they wear a mask, it is less likely for sick monsters to spread to other healthy monsters.
Perfect. Well, that's a great story. And it kind of talks about what happens during a pandemic. But if we actually code and we use the learnings of computer science, we can actually bring this monster town to life. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, sure. Let's do
So
it.
we're going to click continue so that we can get into the levels. And this is what we have here in this tool in Sprite Lab. You have the workspace, which is where we're going to be doing all the coding. You have this middle section that says blocks, where you have different blocks. We're going to be pulling blocks from there to do our simulation. And you have the canvas side on the left, to the upper left corner, where we're going to see what is it that we're creating. What do you think about that color, Natalia? Do you like it?
No, how about we do, okay, something like this.
Okay, you like peach. Perfect. So we're going to have that. We now have that color. And the instruction here is that we need to create 10 healthy sprites and one sprite that is sick. So how do you do that?
Well, let's look at the tab sprites.
Okay, we have these blocks that say sprites. You need to drag those blocks and add. So now we have 10 healthy sprites. We're missing the sick one. Perfect. So now we have the sprites, but the sprites are a little bit large, don't you think?
Yeah, they look too squished.
Well, if you want to change that, how do you do it?
Well, there's actions. Let's see what's in there.
Okay, in those actions, you actually can do certain things in our simulation. In this case, you need to drag that block that says size. And look, it already kind of gave you a size. What if you wanted to go like very small and do like 10?
10.
10?
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think I can see that. So let's keep it at 50 so that it can actually have a little bit of space there. Now, we already have our sprites. You have the right size, but they're just static, right? They're not doing anything. So you probably want them to do something. Where would you go to do that?
Let's see what else is in actions. Oh, look at this.
Okay, if you drag that block that has an action there and you put it at the end, it's going to say that all sprites are now going to wander. So in order to see what is it that we're coding here, you need to click run. So let's do it.
Oh, look, they're moving.
They're moving. And so now they're moving, but we're in the middle of an outbreak. And this is where right now we haven't coded an event, which is the word of the day. So let's not share the screen. Let's go back here. Perfect. So today we're going to learn about events. And for those of you that joined yesterday, where we coded with a dance party, that activity is all about creating events for you to do things, dance moves. So today, right now, we've already created some monsters. The monsters have the right size, they're there, but nothing is going on. So we need to create an event. And an event is when you actually do something, you create an action in computer science when you're coding to drive a reaction. That's an event. And you can create an action by ordering your computer to do something when you do a click in your mouse or when you type a specific letter in your keyboard. There are many ways in which you can create events, but it's basically creating an action so that then that produces a reaction. So that's an event. We actually have a poll so that we can explore this concept a little bit more. So let's say it says, which of this is an example of an event? Going to a birthday party, singing in a school concert, or tapping an icon to open an app. So I see there's almost a tie there between two responses. Getting close, but a little bit over half of you actually guessed right. The event in this context is tapping an icon to open an app. Yes, for the rest of you that also said going to a party is an event, or singing at a school concert, definitely in real life, in the things that we do, those are events. But when you're talking about computer science, an event is when you make the computer do something because you are already inputting something, like clicking or identifying something that will happen. So let's do another poll. Let's now do an event, kind of like an unplugged. Let's do an unplugged activity. Let's do an event here, and for that we're going to need the help of all of you out there. What if we want to do something like an arm wave, a silly face, jazz hands? Let's all play with this. And I kind of guess what it's going to win. So let's see if I'm going to be right. Yeah, most people decided that they want to do a silly face. So let's just try. Natalia, can you do a silly face? Okay, so that's not in itself an event. An event is now going to be when I prompt you to do a silly face. So I'm going to invite everyone there watching us to do their best silly face possible every time I clap. Okay? So when I clap, you do a silly face. When I clap again, you do another silly face. Okay? Let's start. Perfect. So those were 3 events that we used by clapping and then having a reaction to my clap. So we're going to continue doing events, but now in our simulator. For that, we're going to, no, this is the one. We're going to share the screen once again, and we're going to put continue. So let's see what's going to happen now. So what happens in a pandemic, Natalia, when you wanted to move something? Yeah. So just put clear, start over again. So in a pandemic, what happens when, let's see that in Monster Town, a healthy monster comes across a sick monster and they touch each other. What should happen?
The healthy monster will be sick.
The healthy monster gets sick. So that's going to be our event. And that's what we're going to try to do here. So in order for us to produce that event in our simulator, then we go to this new block that appeared here. And you say, when a healthy monster, this is what you're seeing there, touches a sick monster, then you select the costume of that healthy monster is going to change its costume, and that's costume is the name of how, in this case, the monsters look. It's going to change its costume to appear as sick. So let's run the simulation and see what happens there. So you see that one monster that touched another one got sick. Now, oh, no. There's another one.
Oh no.
It's moving a little bit slow, but slowly. Look, wow.
Whoa.
What happened there? So, what did you saw there, Natalia, in that simulation?
Well, what happened was when the healthy monster got in contact with the sick monster, that caused that healthy monster to become sick. And when more of the healthy monsters got sick, it was harder to control.
And some of the cool features of running a simulation, in this case with Sprite Lab, is that every time you run it, the way in which things happen are different. So why don't we run it again just to see what happens now?
Oh, wow.
So now, for starters, we had more sick monsters at the beginning, and then very quickly, almost all of them got sick. So that was one of our events in which we saw how the virus is spreading while the monsters are touching each other. Now, in real life, during a pandemic, what can you do about it? Is there anything that you can do about it?
Well, we can start with wearing masks to protect ourselves.
So do you think that's a good idea that the monsters start using masks in our simulation?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's generate another event now in which, let's go to the next level, in which we're going to create this other event. And yeah, we need to start over. Sometimes when you are using Sprite Lab and you're using it several times, it saves part of the work that you do. And if that's the case, then it's good to just click over there and start over like we did right now. So you see that now we have these new blocks. You see these two blocks that says when healthy monster is clicked. So yeah, you're going to put it there so that we can see what you're doing. And then what happens? What do we need? We need an action, right?
Yeah,
or an
let's
event.
check the...
Let's see. Exactly. When, no, go to actions.
Yeah. Okay.
So the event is when we click, that's the event. It means that when we click the healthy monster, then that produces a change in behavior, which in this case is the healthy monster is going to cover the mouth with a face mask. We probably should think about doing something with the sick monsters as well.
Yeah, put masks on them too so that they don't spread.
Exactly, because we also have discovered that during a pandemic, when you put a mask to the monsters that are, or the people in this case, that are sick, then you actually can prevent the virus from spreading. So what Natalia just did is she created two more events that are going to be when you click on a monster, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, they're going to be covered with a face mask. So that is going to actually require for you to do things. What you see here is now we have several events going on. When they touch each other, they're going to infect each other. But when you do a click, you're going to be able to prevent that from happening but by putting a mask. Let's try that. Let's see. Okay. So what happened in that simulation?
Well, I tried to get as many healthy monsters that I can, but I also wasn't able to save every single healthy monster from getting infected.
Exactly. So you were trying quickly to put masks on the healthy ones, and they kind of got spared from the virus. But then there was a few of them that you didn't cover, and they actually got infected. Do you think we could have a better strategy for this? Is there anything else that we should be trying?
What if I click the sick monsters first for clicking the healthy ones?
Yeah, let's see what happens if you do that.
Yeah.
Now just cover a few of all the others just in case, but let's see what happens.
Well, it's not really doing anything to the healthy monsters.
But why is it doing anything?
Because the sick monster is wearing a mask, therefore no infection.
Exactly. So that was actually a good strategy. In your simulation, you discovered that if you target the sick monsters first and you put a mask, then you can actually prevent from everyone else to get infected. You still put a mask in a few others just for safety, but that's actually a good strategy. And in real life, we see that as well. You know, that's some of the things that we're doing right now. In the United States and around the world. Many of us are wearing masks, and it's even extra important to wear a mask when you actually have symptoms and when you are sick. So that's a great way for you to continue doing a simulation. Natalia, what other things we didn't consider or we haven't done in our simulation?
Well, there wasn't the variable of how much time the infected monsters would remain infected.
Well, that's a good point, because when you're sick, you don't stay sick forever, right? So you may be sick for a few days or for a few weeks. So in your simulation, you could decide if you want to make the monster sick for a specific amount of time and then they get healthy again. What else? What else could you do in a simulation?
Well, we didn't put in the vaccine.
You could create a vaccine and you could vaccinate some of the monsters, and that would be an even stronger way to keep them protected in addition to the mask. Those are things that a simulation allows you to do. So let's not stop sharing the screen. And those are the types of things that all of you can actually do with Sprite Lab. So the simulation is about trying to figure out how to emulate reality in the best way possible, and then trying it again so that you can see the different ways in which things can happen. And as you already saw in our simulation, the way that the monsters move and everything are not always in the same way. So we talked about vaccines, we talked about time. I think those are things that you can continue doing in Sprite Lab with this Outbreak activity. We have a few polls that are going to help us also just double check a couple of the concepts that we talked about here today. One of them is event. So I think we have a poll there, or don't we? There it is. Like, which of these might be controlled by events? So let's say playing the same game 3 times in a row. When someone gets tagged, that player becomes it, or a baseball team practicing before a tournament. Wow, now the overwhelming majority of you actually selected the right answer, which is when someone gets tagged, then that someone in that game becomes it. That is a very clear example of an event. We have a second poll just to talk about simulations, which is basically what we did here today with Sprite Lab. So how can simulations be helpful in the real world? We have 3 very interesting answers here. Simulations can help us understand the world around us. Simulations let you test out ideas quickly, cheaply, and safely. And simulations are a way to model complex systems in an interactive way. So, this is a trick question because the reality is that all 3 answers are correct. Almost half of you actually chose answer number 1 as a correct answer, but all of you actually showed the correct answer as well. Simulations allow us to do all of that. It is actually a great way for us to try and model something that we expect could happen in reality. And we're trying to figure out solutions. When you have a problem, a complex problem, you go simulate the problem, you try different solutions, you model it, and then you see what happens. And after doing it a lot of times, you probably have a better idea of what is it that is going to work in real life. So that's why simulations are very important. So this is all that we're going to do today. As an example, the idea was to try to show you this brand new activity that we just released. Outbreak is new, and you're one of the first ones that see this activity, and you can play it on your own. Remember, code.org/outbreak. Go to our website, go to our platform, type code.org/outbreak, and you can spend some time with it. I actually recommend that you spend quite some time so that you can run a lot of simulations and repeat the actions so that you can see that every time that you do it, it's going to turn out a little bit differently. So I want to thank you. Good job, Natalia, for helping us code here. Do you have fun?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, right? I especially like the monsters and the shapes. They're so cool. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being part of doing an hour of code during Computer Science Education Week. I invite you to continue doing Outbreak, and I invite you to explore all the other tutorials that we have in the code.org platform and all the curriculum that we have available for all of you to learn computer science, which is a critical skill that you will need to be successful throughout all your life. Thank you. Oh, and don't forget, tomorrow we have another episode of Code Bytes, And if you come and join us, you're going to learn how to do apps for good. So please join us tomorrow for our next episode of Code Bytes. Bye, everyone.